Good day, Professor. This is my reaction video in our very interesting topic on the protection of the freedom of speech as recognized in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and which was related exactly in the 1987 Philippine Constitution. So, as a general reaction on how our class went through, uh, of course, it was a very interesting discussion, considering that, again, the issue on the protection of of speech is not necessarily contained in the whole idea that it is with respect to a person only, but with respect to the whole idea that it may refer to, say, for example, our discussions on corporations. But true enough, whether it is covered with respect to the person's right to freedom of speech, but also towards an entity's protection of its freedom of speech. It's no less than the US and at the same time the Philippine Constitution that recognize the same. What is so striking, however, in our discussions in one of the comments that you've made is that this concept of freedom of speech is ever evolving. As you have mentioned and as you have noted, the case of Jimmy Kimmel and the other late night show host had essentially opened up again another interpretation on how this right should be protected insofar as third parties being subjected to such kind of bullying right now by the Trump administration, and how will it directly curtail also the freedom of speech of these other individuals. So it interests me the most, although, of course, there's always an argument on both sides of the coin on whether there's no violation or there's no violation at all. But the whole point that even the president of the US acknowledges the fact that he does not want these people to say some things like this in national television would essentially show ill intent on the part of the president that he wants them to be censored at the end. So whether it was coursed through a third party, which is ABC in that case, uh, it appears that there's still a curtailment on my part, on my personal opinion, there's still a curtailment of this freedom of speech. As you have clearly noted in the discussion, insofar as the case of Maria Ressa is concerned, it clearly appears also that while it is not directly the President of the Republic of the Philippines, the former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, who ordered the censorship of Maria Ressa, the whole point that he is the mastermind of all these acts had necessarily restricted Maria Ressa's freedom of speech. As I have mentioned earlier, and as you have noted in our discussion, I believe that the concept of freedom of speech is ever evolving. And it's too bad that our class was cut short because there's still many more, I think, discussions that are coming from our classmates, my classmates, and also coming from you. So I guess it would be better if another concept in relation to freedom of speech will be considered in one of our subjects. That is my reaction, Professor. Thank you.
Good evening, Professor. As I reflect on our discussions, one truth stands out. Free speech can be silenced not only by laws, but also by fear of retaliation. In Perkins Coie, the court clarified the retaliation tests. So those tests were mentioned in the case. This shows how indirect pressure, not just formal censorship, can chill dissent. Retaliating against a law firm for its clients is more than just punishment, actually. It warns others that challenging authority carries a cost. And the same principle is reflected in Citizens United case. Whatever one's view of corporate speech, the case affirms that government cannot restrict political expression based on the speaker's identity or viewpoint. We know that political speech, being the most vulnerable to retaliation, deserves the highest protection. For the Philippines, these doctrines offer guidance. Our Constitution already treats expression as a preferred right, subject to strict scrutiny. But our focus is often on overt restrictions like prior restraint. The US cases that we discussed remind us that chilling effect itself is a violation and that retaliation can silence voices long before sanctions are imposed. If applied in our jurisprudence here in the Philippines, this framework would safeguard lawyers, journalists, and citizens from informal but powerful pressures. It would make free speech real in practice, not just on paper. So, my reaction, therefore, is that these cases highlight a deeper truth. Democracy depends on protecting speech, not only when it is popular, but especially when it is vulnerable to retaliation. Whether in the US or the Philippines, safeguarding against chilling effect is essential if free expression is to remain a living right and not just a constitutional promise. So, since we are lawyers, in the end, freedom should not be tested by how we protect agreeable voices, but by how firmly we defend those that power seeks to silence. That would be all, Professor. Thank you.